What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to RJF Media. I'm Rob. On this one, we'll be talking about the reports from Zach Rosenblatt and Deanna Rossini that came out earlier today about some of the issues going on within the Jets organization. Apparently, there are a bunch of leaks, and there's a bunch of individuals who are either with the organization or close to the organization that had leaked this information. Before we get started, like, share, subscribe, comment down below. Hit that notification bell so you're notified every time I post a video. Let's get into it. It's going to be a little bit different. I'm going to kind of go in sections and kind of give my thoughts on each section and my overall thoughts at the end of it. But first and foremost, I just want to say, I believe most of the stuff that's being said. There's a couple areas where, okay, it seems like a little bit of an exaggeration. We'll talk about those two, one of those situations later on. But most of it, I think, is actually true because everything that in this report that came out, they're not saying anything that we haven't been saying ourselves. They're not saying anything that we haven't been seeing, such as lack of accountability, bad. It just seemed like the team gave up after Aaron Rodgers got hurt. All these things we've been saying ourselves, and I've been saying in past videos that this team is just, this organization is just fundamentally broken. I got some backlash for it. What are you talking about? Rodgers was hurt, bad O-line. Of course, it's not going to look, the play isn't going to look that good and everything. But I always thought that it went a lot deeper than that. I thought it was an organizational issue that this team had. And really, the only difference from this report now to everything that's been going on the past few years since Joe Douglas and Rob Saleh have gotten here, mainly Joe Douglas, is everything was tight-lipped. Nothing got out. That was one of the big things about Joe Douglas, is that he made sure everything stayed in-house. Things were settled in-house. There weren't reports. That nothing really came out unless they wanted you to see it, unless they wanted it to come out. But now it just looks like the wheels are falling off, and everything that I think most of us really suspected was really going on is coming to fruition. Because, like I said again, we've been seeing this all season. We've been seeing the mental errors, just the lack of accountability, just the lack of drive and want. So getting into it. It says Rosenblatt and Rossini spoke to 30 sources in and around the Jets organization. The report is nothing short of ugly. One line at the beginning sums it up well. Those sources described a team riddled with excuse-making, a paranoid head coach, an ill-equipped offensive coordinator, and an organizational tunnel vision on the cornerback that rubbed some teammates the wrong way. In the words of one Jets coach, it's just such a bleeping mess. Something has to change. And look, again, I'll keep repeating it. This is something we've been saying all season. Yes, it was an ill-equipped offensive coordinator, never made adjustments. The halftime, the game plan never made sense. They were never able to get into a rhythm. And you also have players, coming out talking about this. The Alan Lazard quote, they out-efforted us, out-hustled us, whatever it was. Garrett Wilson, saying, standing on the sideline, other offenses don't make it look this difficult. And this is basically what it's summing up to. It's not like the stuff hasn't been said, during the season or off season or whatever. It's been said, but up until now, to where, again, this is something I think we all kind of suspected. But to hear it come out from the organization, I think that is just kind of, the kick in the nuts that we didn't want to hear. We knew it. We didn't want to hear it, though. They go on to talk about Hackett. One Jets coach commented on the lack of urgency Hackett showed. Per the article, the coach said he'd never seen a team watch less practice tape in training camp than the Jets did with Hackett, which again makes total sense. It seemed like every week this offense, they couldn't get into rhythm. They looked confused. They didn't know what was going on. Stupid penalties, pre-snap penalties. That's an indication that you don't really know what's going on. So that's, again, this is why it's so believable, because it's nothing we haven't been seeing or saying all season. The article goes on to say other coaches, players said that Hackett lacked attention to detail. Furthermore, Hackett did not meet with much of his offensive staff until last-minute game prep. Nothing new that we haven't seen. Again, this offense just there was no attention to detail. It never made sense and never clicked and never really worked. Besides for a game here and there, I mean, this is nothing new that we haven't seen. Continuing, it says in week 2, Micah Parsons dominated Dwayne Brown to the tune of 2 sacks and 4 quarterback hits. Offensive line coach Keith Carter asked Hackett to give Brown blocking help, but to no avail. I'll be honest, I didn't really expect this part with Keith Carter coming out asking for help. Keith Carter's kind of been a scapegoat for a lot of the offensive line issues that we saw this season, and I'm one person that thought he should have been gone, the second the season ended. I'm not saying that, oh yeah, he should still come back or whatever. I would still prefer to see him gone, but to see something like this, I mean, yeah, we were saying during that game, why isn't Brown getting any help? He's 39, 40 years old, wherever he is, coming off a pretty major injury, torn labrum in the shoulder. Why are we not giving him help? Micah Parsons was beating him all game. It made no sense, and I think that goes back to the lack of attention to detail, and really just not caring. I didn't put it down here, but there was also reports that, once Rodgers got hurt, that the goal shifted from making it to the playoffs, going to the Super Bowl, to winning 7 games, to staying afloat. And it totally believable, because why, we said from the time Aaron Rodgers got hurt, you need to bring in a competent backup quarterback, professional backup quarterback, and they never did it, and it never made sense. And they never made sense to not give Dwayne Brown help during the Cowboys game when he was getting beat all game. It never made sense. So, it correlates with what we saw during the season, especially in this game. It all correlates. We said all season, oh, it looks like they just gave up. Once Rodgers got hurt, they gave up, and that's organizational. You can't, your mindset can't go from playoffs to Super Bowl to, well, hopefully we just win 7 games. Especially that early in the season and 4 plays in, you just give up. It makes no sense. You still have 16 games left after that to try to do something, especially when I saw that the AFC was honestly really mediocre this year. There was a lot of play in the AFC this year. And it just... I'll keep saying it. This all just goes to what we saw all season. But going on with the Hackett thing, when the Jets started playing younger players, including Jeremy Ruckert, Xavier Gibson, and Carter Warren, Hackett tried to return to the place he planned to run with Rodgers at the helm. Things got worse. Pre-snap penalties were abundant as the Jets led the league in both that area and total penalties. We said all season, why isn't Hackett adjusting to anything else other than, Aaron Rodgers running the offense? Once he went down, why aren't we adjusting? Why aren't we working around Zach Wilson's strengths? Why aren't we working around what, Tim Boyle does well or Trevor Siemian does well? Why are we not working around this? Why are we, still running the same offense that hasn't worked? And say, well, it doesn't work because Rodgers isn't here. Makes no sense. But, this is what's coming out, and this makes total sense. After Hackett, they move on to Saleh. It says, Saleh also seemed to take a woe with me attitude when Rodgers went down. He did his research and found that many successful coaches, including Bill Belichick, John Harbaugh, Mike McDaniel, Kyle Shanahan, all had losing records when they lost their top quarterback. This seemed to be his excuse in bid for job security. He did. I mean, again, I just said it. The woe with me attitude. He, oh well, injuries. Oh well, penalties. Oh well, we got to get that cleaned up. Oh well, the referees. Oh well, this, well that. There was always an excuse to why they weren't able to do anything on offense. And as far as did research and found many successful head coaches didn't have a winning record without their starting quarterback. I can kind of give and take with that. I think I remember him saying something about that at one point during the season. I'm not 100% sure. You can let me know in the comments down below. I don't know if it's just because I'm reading this that it's like, oh yeah, I think I remember him saying that. But one thing that these coaches do that Rob Saleh doesn't do. For the most part, even if they're losing, their team comes out and they look competent. They look like they have an identity. They look like they know what the hell they're doing on offense or defense or whatever. They don't look like a pushover. They don't, they look prepared at least, where it doesn't ever really look like that for Saleh. Look, him winning 7 games with Zach Wilson, Tim Boyle, and Trevor Siemian, okay, I'll give him some kudos for that, but I mean, at the same time, more often than not, this team looked unprepared. They looked like they had no idea what was going on. And again, this report is confirming that. Something we've been seeing all season and been saying all season, like, what the hell is going on? Going further with that, especially since Woody Johnson would reference the negative press coverage in meetings, Saleh also privately blamed Zach Wilson, offensive line, and receivers for the Jets' offensive line issues through adversity of the entire season. Saleh's talking point was, per the report, what do you expect? We lost Aaron Rodgers. Many within the organization were unimpressed with how Saleh fawned over Rodgers. Again, I think that's kind of half of it could be part of could be a little bit of an exaggeration. I don't really see Saleh as the type to say, Zach Wilson's the reason why we're losing all offensive line or whatever, which both were reasons why we were losing. But what I was saying before is, when he said, what do you expect? We lost Aaron Rodgers. That, we've heard him say that multiple times throughout the season, or, something similar to that of, well, we don't have Aaron Rodgers. Okay, well, you still need to do more than just show up to the game. Like, you need to do more than that, especially as Jets fans who've been suffering for most recently 13 years, much longer if you go back, and it just seems like there was really no will to win, especially when he says stuff like that. Again, the biggest difference between Saleh and those coaches that I mentioned before is the other coaches, they at least showed up to the game. They at least looked prepared. They at least looked like they had some semblance of what they were doing, where it just never looked like that for Saleh in this offense. When Aaron Rodgers wasn't there, it didn't really look like that for the most part. It goes on a little more. It says, when the Jets benched Wilson for Boyle during their Week 12 loss to Miami, Wilson knew his time with the Jets had come to an end. Saleh told Wilson that he would be benched for the rest of the year and traded after the season. However, Saleh then changed his mind and told Wilson to start preparing for gameplay once more. After the loss to Atlanta, Wilson said he did not want to return to the lineup because of what Saleh told him and the chances of getting injured behind the Jets' poor blocking. Saleh sent Rodgers to talk to Wilson, but nothing changed. Their relationship had soured. Wilson lost contact with Rodgers following the latter's surgery. Wilson decided to play again only after. I think I have more trust in this than non-trust with the whole Wilson not wanting to play. And look, I don't blame him. Should he have played? Should he have said that? No, because you are under contract. You signed that contract. That is your occupation. If you sign a contract and get paid all this money, you go play. But at the same time, do I blame him? No, especially in this scenario where Saleh was supposedly kind of blaming Wilson and putting that the majority of the blame on his shoulders. I can kind of see too how, Rodgers, it's not his job to get Wilson ready. That is 100% the coaching staff, which they never really did. And then, once he had a surgery and then, he's got to recover, he's got to focus on that. So I do see that. I think this is kind of just worded wrong or exaggerated a little bit. But I do see how Wilson might have lost contact with Rodgers for a little bit after he got his surgery, because rightfully so, he needed to recover. So I think this one's kind of, I would say probably like 70-30 true. Again, the vernacular might be off a little bit, it might be exaggerated a little bit, but I think for the most part this is true. We heard after the whole Wilson thing that, he refused to play and all this, which I think might have not been, okay, I'm refusing to play, but I think there might have been a lot more hesitancy to go in, especially when, you keep getting benched, taken out, putting back in, blames being put on you. I can see that for the most part. And to kind of kind of top it all off, I think this is something else that was exaggerated. It says the Athletic leaked his reluctance to start once more. When that leak happened, Sal was furious. He had threatened to take cell phones from his staff to find out who the leaker was, while claiming they would not be in trouble if they came forward. I think Salah was obviously furious and pissed about the situation that, this is getting leaked out of the organization. But I don't know if you really threaten to take people's cell phones, because how are you going to do that? You're going to hold them down and take it? That doesn't really make sense. But I think there probably was something like, if you come forward and, you talk to me individually in private or whatever, you're not going to, kind of like you're not going to get punished in front of everyone kind of thing, or, something along those lines. I think that part's a little more exaggerated than not, but the end of the report was, this bombshell report sheds light on a dysfunctional organization filled with poor coaching and preparedness, finger pointing and excuse making. There were hints from things Salah and Hackett said to the media, but the full scope is nearly unfathomable. Johnson has already given full backing to Salah and Douglas for 2024. The Jets just fired assistant general manager Rex Hogan. The fall person for a systemic issue. Perhaps replacing Hogan will help some of the Jets' personnel decisions, but it will not fix the culture of ducking responsibility that permeates the organization. One noticeable aspect of the report is that it contains a little criticism of the front office, perhaps indicating the source of the leaks. Which, look, I think in life there really aren't too many coincidences. So I think after all this comes out, and then Rex Hogan and the New York Jets mutually agree to part ways, I think maybe Rex Hogan wasn't fully on board with what Joe Douglas wanted to do with the hiring and everything else. And then obviously in the organization itself, everything that was going on, maybe he did leak it. Taylor Embry, he was also released. I think he probably definitely released some of this. Finishing off it, culture of ducking responsibility that permeates the organization. That's what they've been doing all season. Really, that's what they've been doing for the past few years that this regime has been in here. Passing the buck on to someone else. Oh, we're close, we're almost there. Oh, well, Salah talking about when he took over, it was an expansion team, and this team has built a culture around making excuses. And again, this report, it sums it up. It talks about that. It talks about exactly what we've been seeing. That's why, again, I think a lot of this is really reputable, and really, honestly, I think a lot of this is true. I know Deanna Rossini and Aaron Rodgers don't really get along. Aaron Rodgers has kind of criticized her work before, but when we're talking about, apparently 30 sources, I don't see how any, these reporters, they still want to keep their reputation. Even if they get something wrong, they want to keep their reputation. And I honestly don't see it, especially to the bigger names in, Jets beat reporting, or just sports reporting in general, especially Deanna Rossini, coming out and saying, oh yeah, well, I have 30 sources. If maybe she had 1 or 2 or 3 or something like that. I don't see that. I don't see her putting her reputation on the line like that. And Zach Rosenblatt, one of the more respected Jets reporters, again, I don't see them exaggerating to the point. Was it 30? Was it maybe 25, 26? And they're like, oh, well, 30. Okay, maybe I can see that, but I don't see them risking their entire reputation to put something like this out, to show something so damning about the organization. Like I said earlier, is the difference between successful organizations and the Jets is the successful organizations don't do anything the Jets do. They do the complete opposite. And I think this organization, I think it's fundamentally broken. It is, as we've seen throughout the season, the past few years from this report. It's just, it hammers home everything we've been seeing. And the thing is, I feel like if this really was, this was just all BS, all completely made up, this and that, I think Woody Johnson would come out and say something. I think Joe Douglas would come out and say something. I think Rob Saleh would come out and say something. As far as I know, as of now, I haven't seen anything. I don't know if they have. I don't think they have. But, you know, tell me what you think in the comments down below. Do you trust this report? Do you not trust it? What do you think is really going on? Most importantly, how did the Jets fix this? Because this is organizational. This is just bad culture, no culture even, and just it's like the Wild West, you know, Cowboys and Indians. It's just it's crazy. This organization is completely dysfunctional, and you know, before I go, another thing too is, you know, how do you, especially if I'm the Jets organization, I see this, I'm like, no, that's complete BS. This never happened. I would come out and get ahead of it right away, because with free agency coming up, what do you think free agents are thinking? You know, we're talking about, you know, T. Higgins, Michael Pittman, all this. What do you think they're thinking when they see something like this? Like, you kidding me? This is all going on? 30-something sources, complete, you know, coaches saying this is dysfunctional, this doesn't work. How do you think you're going to draw in free agents? The free agents would never want to deal with this. It doesn't matter if you're paying them $20 million more than, you know, the next organization. They don't want to deal with this. So if I'm the Jets and this isn't true, I'm coming out to get ahead of this so I can at least try to save some face to bring in some of the free agent targets that we might be looking to go after. And, you know, these young guys, you know, Jermaine Johnson, Garrett Wilson, Breece Hall, Sauce Gardner, they're seeing all of this. If this is true, you know, they've been seeing this go on through the whole season, all last year. You think they're going to resign? They're not going to resign. They're going to go somewhere else. They're going to ask for a trade, or they're going to wait till their contract's over, and then they're going to go somewhere else. They're not going to resign here if this is what's going on. So to me, the Jets need to fix this fast. They, you know, Aaron Rodgers can't fix this. You know, it's not a one person can fix this thing. This organization in itself needs to fix this, because this is not how you run a successful organization. This isn't how you run a successful business. This isn't how you run a successful franchise. This is the complete opposite. Nobody would want to be part of this. But, you know, that's all I got. Like I said, let me know in the comments down below. What do you think? Like, share, subscribe. And until then, talk to you later.